The day everything changed started like any other Sunday. I woke up next to my wife, Karen, in the house we'd shared for 6 years. The morning light filtered through the curtains, and for a few blissful seconds, I was at peace. Then the weight of the previous evening settled back onto my chest like a stone. Yesterday had been the family barbecue at Karen's sister's house. Her whole family was there. Parents, siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews. And of course, her daughter, Megan. Megan was 23 years old, a junior in college, studying marketing. She had her mother's sharp cheekbones and her biological father's quick temper. I'd come into her life when she was 17, a sullen teenager who resented any man who wasn't her dad. Her dad had left when she was 12, moved across the country, remarried, and had new kids. He sent birthday cards sometimes, but that was it. I tried to be a father figure, but Megan had never let me close. Still, I'd provided. God, had I provided. When Karen and I got married, I made a commitment. Not just to her, but to Megan. I paid for her private high school tuition because the public schools in our area were terrible. I bought her a reliable used car when she turned 16 so she could drive herself to school and her part-time job. I set up a college fund that covered her tuition, her dorm, her meal plan, her textbooks. When she decided she wanted an apartment off campus instead of the dorm, I co-signed the lease and paid the rent. When her phone broke, I bought her a new one. When she needed a credit card for emergencies, I added her as an authorized user on my account. She had a monthly limit that most adults would envy. I did all of this because I loved Karen and I wanted Megan to have a good life. I didn't expect gratitude. I didn't expect her to call me dad. But I did expect basic respect, basic human decency. And yesterday, at that barbecue, I learned that even that was too much to ask. The barbecue had been going well, at first. Karen's family was large and loud, the kind of family where everyone talked over everyone else and arguments were a form of affection. I'd brought my famous ribs, which I'd spent 6 hours smoking the day before. People complimented them. I was feeling good. Then Megan arrived. She walked in late, as usual, with her boyfriend, a guy named Tyler who had a permanent sneer and a collection of tribal tattoos. Megan was dressed in expensive clothes I'd paid for, carrying a designer handbag I'd bought her for her birthday, and typing on the latest iPhone that I'd added to my plan 2 months ago. She kissed her grandmother, hugged her aunts, and completely ignored me. I was used to that. I'd learned not to take it personally. So I kept manning the grill, flipping burgers, making small talk with Karen's brother-in-law. Then someone asked Megan about school. She launched into a story about a group project she was working on, something about a marketing campaign for a local business. She was animated, funny, charming. Everyone laughed. I smiled, glad she was happy. Then her cousin, Jake, who'd had a few beers, pointed at me and said, "Hey, Meg, you should have your stepdad help with that. Isn't he in marketing or something?" I do work in marketing, actually. I'm a senior account director at a mid-sized agency. I've been in the field for 20 years. I know a thing or two. Megan looked at me, and her expression shifted. The charm vanished. Her eyes went cold. "He's not in marketing," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "He pushes papers for a living. He wouldn't know a real marketing strategy if it hit him in the face." The table went quiet. I felt heat rise to my cheeks, but I kept my voice even. "Actually, Megan, I've led campaigns for national brands. But you're right, group projects are different. I'm sure you've got it handled." I thought that was the end of it. A dismissive comment, a little embarrassing, but not worth a scene. But Megan wasn't done. "Oh, please," she said, louder now, as if she wanted everyone to hear. "You sit in a cubicle all day and pretend you're important. The only reason you have any money is because you inherited it from your parents. You didn't earn anything." That wasn't true. My parents had left me a modest inheritance. Yes, about $50,000. But I'd built my career from nothing. I'd worked my way through community college, transferred to a state school, started as an intern, and climbed the ladder over 2 decades. The money I had was money I'd earned. But Megan wasn't interested in the truth. She was interested in hurting me. "You know what your problem is?" she continued, standing up now, gesturing at me with a barbecue fork. "You think because you throw money around, you get to be part of this family. But you're not family. You're just some guy my mom married because she was lonely. You don't belong here." The silence was deafening. I could see Karen's mother looking at her plate. Karen's sister was wide-eyed. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear. Even Tyler, the sneering boyfriend, seemed uncomfortable. I looked at Karen. She was staring at Megan, but she wasn't saying anything. She wasn't defending me. Megan, I said quietly, that's enough. No, it's not enough, she shot back. Someone needs to say it. You've been hanging around for 6 years, pretending you're my father. You're not my father. My father is a real man who lives in Florida. You're just a placeholder. A wallet with legs. She laughed. Some of the younger cousins laughed too, nervously, not sure if they were supposed to. But the adults were stone-faced. I set down the spatula I was holding. I looked at Karen again. She still wasn't saying anything. She was looking at Megan with an expression I couldn't read. Was it fear? Approval? Exhaustion? Karen, I said, are you going to say something? She blinked, as if I'd woken her from a trance. Megan, maybe tone it down a little. Tone it down. Not apologize. Not correct her. Not defend her husband of 6 years. Tone it down. Megan rolled her eyes. Whatever. I'm leaving. This party is boring anyway. She grabbed Tyler's hand and they walked out, not looking back. The party continued, but the energy was gone. People made awkward small talk. Karen's mother brought out dessert early. I went back to the grill because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. On the drive home, Karen and I didn't speak. I stared out the passenger window, watching the street lights blur past. My chest felt hollow. When we got inside, I finally spoke. Karen, we need to talk about what happened. She sighed, dropping her purse on the entryway table. It's not a big deal. Megan was in a mood. You know how she gets. She humiliated me in front of your entire family. She called me a placeholder. A wallet with legs. She said I don't belong. She's young. She's stressed about finals. She's 23 years old. She's not a child. And you didn't defend me. Karen's face hardened. What was I supposed to do? Make a scene at my sister's house? Cause drama. You could have said, Megan, that's not acceptable. You could have told her to apologize. You could have done literally anything except sit there like a statue. Now Karen's eyes flashed. You want to know the truth? Maybe she has a point. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? You're not her father. You never will be. You've been trying to buy her love for 6 years, and it hasn't worked. Maybe it's time you accepted that. I wasn't trying to buy her love. I was trying to give her a good life. There's a difference. Is there? You paid for her school, her car, her apartment. And what did you expect in return? Gratitude? Respect? You can't buy those things. I didn't expect to be humiliated in public. Karen crossed her arms. Look, you're a good man. You've been generous. But you need to understand your place. You aren't her father. Don't demand respect. You haven't earned it. I stared at her. This woman I'd loved for 8 years, been married to for 6. This woman I'd supported through her own career changes, her health scares, her family dramas. This woman whose daughter I'd treated as my own, despite constant rejection. You're right, I said quietly. I haven't earned it. And I never will. Because no matter what I do, it will never be enough for either of you. Karen softened slightly. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. It's exactly what you meant. And you know what? I'm done. I walked past her, up the stairs, into the guest bedroom. I closed the door and stood in the dark, my back against the wood, my heart pounding. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 6 years. The birthdays I'd planned that Megan had skipped. The graduation parties I'd paid for that she'd complained about. The countless dinners where she'd ignored me, scrolling through her phone. The Christmas mornings where she'd open my gifts with a forced smile and then set them aside. I thought about the money. The thousands and thousands of dollars I'd poured into Megan's life. Tuition, about $15,000 a year for private high school, then another $20,000 a year for college. The car, $18,000. The apartment, $1,200 a month for 2 years, nearly $30,000. The phone and plan, maybe $3,000 over the years. The credit card bills, she averaged about $800 a month on my card for clothes, dining out, entertainment. That was another $20,000 or so. Plus random expenses, textbooks, a laptop, a spring break trip she'd begged for. I did the math in my head. Over 6 years, I'd spent well over $100,000 on Megan. Probably closer to $150,000. And in return, I'd gotten nothing but contempt. I thought about what Karen said. You aren't her father. Don't demand respect. Fine. If I wasn't her father, then I wasn't responsible for her. If I hadn't earned respect, then I hadn't earned the obligation to provide. I smiled in the darkness. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had finally, after years of trying, given up. A smile of release. The next morning, I got up early. Karen was still asleep. I went to my home office, closed the door, and opened my laptop. I started with the university. I'd been paying Megan's tuition directly through an online portal. I logged in, navigated to the payment section, and removed my credit card information. Then I sent an email to the financial aid office, explaining that I would no longer be responsible for Megan's tuition and that they should contact the student directly for alternative payment arrangements. Next, the apartment. The lease was in my name, but I was the primary guarantor. I called the leasing office as soon as they opened. "This is Daniel Mercer," I said. "I'm the guarantor for Unit 4B, leased to Megan Taylor. I need to terminate my financial responsibility effective immediately." The leasing agent hesitated. "Sir, the lease has another 8 months. Breaking it early will incur significant fees." "I understand. I'm not breaking the lease. I'm removing myself as the financial guarantor. Megan Taylor is an adult. She can assume responsibility for her own rent. If she can't, that's between her and the leasing office. Sir, without a guarantor, we'll need to reevaluate her application. She may not qualify on her own income. That's not my concern." I hung up. I felt a twinge of guilt, but I pushed it down. She was 23. She had a part-time job at a clothing store. She could figure it out. The car was next. I'd bought the car outright, but the title was in my name. Megan had been driving it as a loan. I called the dealership where I'd purchased it and asked about selling it back. They offered me a price, less than I'd paid, obviously, but still something. I accepted. I arranged for a tow truck to pick up the car from Megan's apartment that afternoon. I had a spare key. The phone was easy. Megan was on my family plan. I logged into my mobile carrier's website and removed her line. Within minutes, her phone would be deactivated. No calls, no texts, no data. The credit card was even easier. I logged into my credit card account, found Megan's authorized user card, and removed her. The card would be declined immediately. Finally, I logged into the joint account I shared with Karen. I transferred my share, roughly 60% of the total, into a new account in my name only. I left enough to cover the mortgage and utilities for 2 months. I wasn't trying to leave Karen destitute. I was just protecting myself. By 10 a.m., I'd done it all. I sat back in my chair, my hands steady, my breathing calm. The guilt was still there, a small voice whispering that I was being cruel, that family was supposed to forgive, that I should be the bigger person. But I'd been the bigger person for 6 years. And where had it gotten me? Humiliated in front of dozens of people, told I didn't deserve respect, reminded that I wasn't family. I was done being the bigger person. I was done being the wallet with legs. Karen knocked on the office door around 10:30. "Daniel, are you in there?" I opened the door. She was still in her bathrobe, holding a cup of coffee. Her eyes were puffy. She'd been crying. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Sure." We sat in the living room. The morning sun was bright, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. "I'm sorry about last night," Karen said. I was harsh. I didn't mean what I said. "Which part? The part where you said I haven't earned respect? Or the part where you said I'm not her father?" "Both." "Neither." "I don't know." She set down her coffee and rubbed her temples. "I'm just so tired of the tension between you two. Megan has always been difficult. You knew that when you married me. I knew she was difficult. I didn't know she was cruel. And I didn't know you would let her be cruel to me without saying a word. She's my daughter. I love her. I'm your husband. I thought you loved me too." Karen's eyes filled with tears. "I do love you. That's why this is so hard. Love isn't supposed to be this hard, Karen. Love isn't supposed to feel like a transaction where I give and get nothing in return. What do you want from me? Do you want me to cut off my own daughter? Do you want me to choose between you? I want you to stand up for me. I want you to tell Megan that her behavior is unacceptable. I want you to treat me like a partner, not an ATM." Karen was quiet for a long moment. "I can try. Trying isn't good enough anymore." I stood up. "I'm going to stay at a hotel for a few days. I need space. I need to think. Daniel, please. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk." I packed a bag and left. I didn't tell her about the financial changes I'd made. She'd find out soon enough. I checked into a mid-range hotel near my office. The room was generic and sterile, but it was quiet. I ordered room service, ate a sandwich I didn't taste, and stared at the wall. My phone started buzzing around noon. First, a text from Megan. Megan, 12:03 p.m. Why is my phone not working? Did you do something? I didn't reply. Then a call from Karen. I let it go to voicemail. Then a text from Karen. Karen, 12:15 p.m. Megan says her phone is off and her credit card is being declined. What's going on? I didn't reply. Then another text from Megan. Megan, 12:22 p.m. The leasing office called me. They said you removed yourself as guarantor. What the heck is wrong with you? I still didn't reply. Then a call from an unknown number. I answered. Mr. Mercer? This is the tow company you arranged. We're at the address you provided. The vehicle is here. We're about to hook it up. Proceed, I said. Sir, there's a young woman here screaming at us. She says the car is hers. The car is registered to me. I have the title. Please proceed. We're going to need you to come sign some paperwork. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up. I felt sick to my stomach, but I didn't change my mind. When I arrived at Megan's apartment complex, there was a scene. Megan was standing in the parking lot, her face red, her arms flailing. The tow truck was backing up to her car, my car. Tyler was there, looking useless. And a small crowd of neighbors had gathered, drawn by the commotion. There he is. Megan screamed when she saw me. She ran toward me, her eyes wild. What are you doing? That's my car. It's my car, Megan. I bought it. It's registered to me. You gave it to me. I lent it to you. There's a difference. She looked like she wanted to hit me. Her hands were balled into fists. You can't do this. I have class tomorrow. I have work. How am I supposed to get anywhere? That's not my problem. Mom was right about you. You're a monster. You're trying to ruin my life. I felt a cold calm settle over me. I'm not trying to ruin your life, Megan. I'm just no longer funding it. You're 23 years old. You have a job. You have a boyfriend. You have a mother. Figure it out. You OWE me, she shrieked. After everything you've put me through. What have I put you through exactly? Paying for your school? Buying you a car? Giving you a credit card? What part of that was so terrible? She opened her mouth, then closed it. She didn't have an answer. Yesterday, I said quietly, you humiliated me in front of your entire family. You called me a placeholder. A wallet with legs. You said I don't belong. And your mother agreed with you. So I'm done. I'm not your father. I never will be. And I'm done pretending that I am. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You taught me that. I signed the paperwork for the tow truck. They hooked up the car and drove away. Megan stood in the parking lot, sobbing, while Tyler awkwardly patted her shoulder. I got in my own car and drove back to the hotel. The fallout was immediate and nuclear. Karen called me 37 times in the next 24 hours. I answered the 38th. Daniel, you need to fix this, she said, her voice tight with panic. Megan can't get to school. Her phone is off. Her credit card is declined. The apartment complex is threatening to evict her because she can't prove income. You've destroyed her life. I've destroyed her life? She's 23 years old. She's an adult. Adults manage their own lives. She's not prepared for this. Whose fault is that? Yours? Mine? We've been coddling her for years. Maybe this is exactly what she needs. Daniel, please. Just turn everything back on. We can talk about this. We can go to counseling. Just please, don't punish her for what I said. I was quiet for a moment. I'm not punishing her, Karen. I'm protecting myself. I've spent 6 years giving and getting nothing but disrespect. That's over. From now on, Megan is your responsibility, not mine. I can't afford to support her. Then she'll have to support herself, like millions of other adults do. Karen started crying. You're leaving me. I can feel it. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I know I can't keep living like this. I can't keep being the villain in your family story while I'm the one paying for everything. Come home. Please. We'll figure this out. I'll come home tomorrow, but not to the same life. Things are going to change. I hung up. I spent the rest of the day walking around the city, aimlessly, trying to process what I'd done. I passed a campus and saw students my stepdaughter's age, laughing, carrying backpacks, living their lives. I wondered how many of them were supported by parents, and how many were making their own way. I thought about my own youth. I'd worked since I was 16. I'd paid for my own community college tuition by waiting tables and stocking shelves. I'd taken out student loans. I'd lived in crappy apartments with roommates. I'd driven a car that broke down every other month. And I'd survived. I'd thrived eventually. Maybe Megan would too. Or maybe she'd crash and burn. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. The next day, I went home. Karen was waiting in the living room. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. Megan was there too. She was sitting on the couch, her arms crossed, her expression a mixture of anger and something that might have been fear. "Hi," I said. "Hi," Karen said. Megan said nothing. I sat down in the armchair across from them. "I'm here to talk, but I need you both to listen first. No interrupting." Karen nodded. Megan's jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. 6 years ago, I married Karen. I knew she had a daughter. I knew that daughter had a complicated relationship with her biological father. I knew there might be challenges. But I loved Karen, and I wanted to be part of this family. I wanted to be a good stepfather. I paused, collecting my thoughts. I paid for private school. I bought a car. I set up a college fund. I co-signed an apartment lease. I paid for phones and credit cards and spring break trips. I did all of this because I wanted Megan to have opportunities one didn't have. I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. I did it because I loved Karen, and by extension, I loved her daughter. Megan shifted uncomfortably. Yesterday, at the barbecue, Megan said things that were cruel and untrue. She called me a placeholder, a wallet with legs. She said I don't belong in this family. And Karen, you didn't defend me. You told me I haven't earned respect. You said I'm not her father, so I shouldn't demand it. I looked at Karen. She was crying silently. So here's where we are. I've stopped paying for Megan's life. Her tuition, her apartment, her car, her phone, her credit card, all gone. That's not a punishment. That's me stepping back from a role I was never wanted in. I'm not her father. Fine. I accept that. But if I'm not her father, then I'm not responsible for her. She's an adult. She can take care of herself. Megan finally spoke. You're doing this because I hurt your feelings? That's so petty. I'm doing this because I've finally realized that no amount of money will ever make you see me as family. So I'm stopping. I'm not going to keep throwing good money after bad. You're just trying to control me. You want me to beg. I don't want anything from you, Megan. That's the point. I'm done wanting. Karen reached for my hand. I let her take it. What about us? She asked. What about our marriage? I don't know, I said honestly. I need to see if we can have a partnership that isn't built on me supporting your daughter. I need to know if you can stand up for me. I need to know if you actually love me, or if you just love what I provide. I love you, Karen whispered. I've always loved you. Then show me. Not with words. With actions. The next few weeks were chaos. Megan tried to enroll in community college, but her credits didn't transfer smoothly. She tried to get a loan for tuition, but she had no credit history and no co-signer. She tried to keep her apartment, but without a guarantor, the complex demanded proof of income she couldn't provide. She moved back into Karen's house, my house, and slept on the couch. She was furious. She slammed doors, made snide comments, refused to eat dinner with me. Karen walked on eggshells, trying to keep the peace. But I held my ground. I didn't engage. I didn't argue. I just went to work, came home, and lived my life. I cooked dinner for myself and Karen. I watched TV. I read books. I acted as if Megan's presence was irrelevant. That infuriated her more than anything. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to yell, to threaten, to give her something to fight against. But I gave her nothing. One night, about 3 weeks after the barbecue, I came home to find Megan sitting at the kitchen table. Alone. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by old jeans and a faded sweatshirt. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked young, vulnerable. Can we talk? She asked. I sat down across from her. Okay. She stared at her hands for a long time. I got a job. At a coffee shop. It's minimum wage plus tips. That's good. It's not enough. I can't afford to go back to school. I can't afford my own place. I can't even afford a cheap phone plan. That's hard. She looked up at me, her eyes red. Why are you doing this? Is it really just because of what I said? No. It's because of 6 years of what you said. And what you didn't say. What you did. And what you didn't do. I was a kid. You were 17 when we met. You're 23 now. That's 6 years of adulthood. You made choices. I'm sorry. The words came out in a rush, like she'd been holding them in. I'm sorry for what I said at the barbecue. I'm sorry for how I've treated you. I'm sorry for everything. I looked at her. I wanted to believe her. But I'd been hurt too many times. Why now? I asked. Why not before? Why not when I was paying for everything? Because I didn't think you'd ever stop, she admitted. I thought you'd just keep taking it. Like you always did. And now that I've stopped, you're sorry? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know that makes me a terrible person. I know it looks like I'm only apologizing because I want my stuff back. And maybe part of me does. But I've been thinking a lot these past few weeks. About how you've been there for me, even when I was awful. About how you never gave up, even when I pushed you away. About how I took everything for granted. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. My real dad left. He didn't even fight for custody. He just left. And I was so angry about that for so long. I took that anger out on you. Because you were there. Because you were safe to hate. Because I knew you wouldn't leave. But I did leave. I stopped paying. You didn't leave. You're still here. You're still in this house. You still eat dinner with Mom. You still ask about my day, even when I'm rude. You didn't abandon me. You just stopped letting me use you. I was quiet for a long moment. Her words were hitting me in places I'd kept armored. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know. And I'm not turning anything back on. Not right now. You need to learn to stand on your own. I know that too. But I'm proud of you. For getting a job. For apologizing. For sitting here and being honest. She managed a small, watery smile. Thanks. Karen came home a few minutes later, saw us sitting together, and started crying. Happy tears, I think. She hugged Megan, then hugged me. For a moment, the three of us stood in the kitchen, holding each other, and it felt almost like a family. The months that followed were not easy. Megan kept her job at the coffee shop and picked up a second job at a retail store. She worked 60 hours a week, sometimes more. She saved every penny. She found a tiny studio apartment in a less-than-great neighborhood and moved out of our house. She enrolled in one class at the local community college, paying for it herself. Karen and I started counseling. We talked about boundaries, about respect, about the patterns that had led to the barbecue disaster. Karen admitted that she'd been afraid of Megan's anger, afraid of losing her daughter, and that she'd sacrificed me to keep the peace. She promised to do better. I believed her. Mostly. Slowly, painfully, things improved. Megan started coming over for Sunday dinners again. She was still awkward around me, still guarded, but she wasn't cruel anymore. She said please and thank you. She asked about my work. She helped with the dishes. On her 24th birthday, I gave her a card with a check for $500. Not a car. Not a tuition payment. Just a small gift. She looked at the check, then at me. I don't know what to say. Say thank you. Thank you. She paused. I'm not going to cash it. I want to earn my own money. That's your choice. She put the check in her pocket anyway. I don't know if she ever cashed it. I never asked. A year after the barbecue, Megan graduated from community college with an associate's degree. She'd done it all herself. Paid for it herself, studied for it herself, earned it herself. Karen and I sat in the audience, clapping. Megan looked out at us and smiled. A real smile. After the ceremony, she found me in the parking lot. I wanted to give you something, she said, holding out a small wrapped box. I opened it. Inside was a keychain with a single word, Dad. I looked at her. She was crying. I know I said you're not my father. And you're not. But you're something. Something I didn't appreciate until I almost lost it. I pulled her into a hug. She hugged me back, tight. I'm proud of you, I said. I know, she replied. That's what makes it matter. I never turned her tuition back on. I never bought her another car. I never co-signed another lease. But I did help her build a budget, and I did review her resume, and I did drive her to a job interview once when her bus was late. Small things. Things that didn't cost money. Things that cost something harder. Time, patience, vulnerability. Karen and I are still married. It's not perfect, but it's real. We fight. We make up. We try. The counseling helped. The honesty helped. The willingness to change helped. And Megan? She's 26 now. She has a full-time job at a marketing firm. She got it on her own, without my help, though I did write her a letter of recommendation. She's saving for a house. She has a new boyfriend, a kind one, who calls me sir and helps with the dishes. She calls me once a week, just to chat. Sometimes I think about that morning in the hotel, the morning I cut her off. I think about the cold, surgical precision of it. The tow truck. The deactivated phone. The declined credit card. I think about her screaming in the parking lot. I'm not proud of that moment. I'm not ashamed of it either. It was necessary. It was the only way to break a cycle that was destroying all of us. Some people will read this story and think I was cruel. A stepfather who pulled the rug out from under a young woman because she hurt his feelings. Those people don't understand. They don't understand what it's like to give and give and give, to pour your heart and your wallet into someone who treats you like dirt, to be told by your own wife that you don't deserve respect. I didn't cut Megan off to punish her. I cut her off to save myself. And in doing so, I saved her too. Because she learned something she never would have learned if I'd kept paying. She learned that she was capable, that she was strong, that she didn't need a wallet with legs. She needed to grow her own. The barbecue was 3 years ago. The family still talks about it sometimes, in hushed voices. Karen's sister apologized to me last Christmas for not speaking up. I told her it was fine. It wasn't, but I said it was. Karen's mother still looks at me differently. With respect, I think. She told me once that I did the right thing. That someone needed to teach Megan a lesson. I didn't correct her. I wasn't trying to teach a lesson. I was trying to survive. But maybe that's the same thing, in the end. If you're reading this, and you're in a similar situation, if you're the step-parent who gives and gets nothing but grief, hear me. You don't have to keep giving. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to protect yourself. It doesn't make you a monster. It makes you a person with limits. And if you're the stepchild reading this, the one who resents the person who married your parent, consider this. They didn't have to show up. They didn't have to pay for your school, your car, your apartment. They did it because they wanted to be part of your life. And if you push them away hard enough, they might finally listen. And you might find yourself standing alone, wondering how you got there. I'm not saying my way was the right way. I'm not saying there aren't better paths. I'm just telling you what happened. The humiliation, the smile, the cutting off, the fallout, the slow, painful rebuilding. We're not a perfect family. We're not even a normal one. But we're still here.